So, Xiaomi decided to skip the Redmi 14 and go straight to the Redmi 15. At first, I thought, okay, maybe it's superstition, maybe it's just marketing. But after actually using this smartphone, I get it. The Redmi 15C doesn't feel like a straightforward successor to the Redmi 13. It's more like Xiaomi built a completely different smartphone with a specific type of user in mind. And honestly, I didn't like it at first glance. Not the design per se, but the overall build quality and some of the decisions here just don't make sense in 2025. Let's get into it. All right, first impressions. This thing is big. It is huge at 6.9 inches of screen, weighing about 224 grams. Now I know the Redmi 15C also has a similar display size, and it is not the first time for Redmi, but I'm telling you, just a few inches more and we would be looking at a mini tablet. Now I get it. There is a 7,000 milliamp battery inside, and that explains the bulk. But even at that, it doesn't feel super premium. The back kind of looks too plasticky to an extent. It does feel like a completely different direction compared to the Redmi 13. When you hold it, it gives you that solid confidence a smartphone should. And compared to the Redmi 13, which also has a plastic back, this just looks different. Don't get me wrong, it is not ugly. In fact, I kind of like the camera design, even though it's a little bit too wide. The black and purple I have here looks clean, and there's also a gray color if you want more options. But if I were to pick amongst these three color, I would definitely go for the purple. But the moment you touch it, you can still feel it's a budget smartphone. On the front, Xiaomi gave us a 6.9-inch LCD display. It is Full HD plus, a punch hole display, goes up to 144 Hz refresh rate, and it gets pretty bright even outdoors with 800 nits peak brightness, but still not competing with a lot of devices around this price, especially those from Infinix and Tecno. This sounds like great numbers, and yes, the refresh rate makes scrolling buttery smooth, but there's a catch. It's still an LCD in 2025. At this price point, a lot of competitors are already giving us AMOLED with deeper blacks, better contrast, and more vibrant colors. The LCD just doesn't pop. Watching content on YouTube or Netflix still gives you decent output, but good as it may be, AMOLED displays are just better. With the Redmi 13's 6.79-inch display, you already had a big screen, but this one crosses into uncomfortable territory. It's not the easiest phone to slip into your pocket or hold for long periods, but when it comes to watching content, the screen is super immersive, perfect for binge watching shows or doing anything that just feels better on a bigger display. Now, let's talk about the main powerhouse, the performance, because this is where things get a little tricky, or rather, I had high hopes. The Redmi 15 is powered by a Snapdragon 685 built on a 6 nanometer chip. This chipset first showed up like 3 years ago. In fact, this is the same processor we saw on the Redmi Note 12 and the Redmi Note 13. Last year's Redmi 13 had a MediaTek Helio G91, which wasn't exactly efficient, but at least it gave you decent performance. Now, switching to a Snapdragon 685 feels like Redmi is playing it safe. Overall, it is a better chipset, it is reliable, it runs cooler, and it also pairs well with the massive 7,000 milliamp battery for excellent endurance. But let's be real, in 2025, using a Snapdragon 685 feels a bit outdated. It struggles with graphic demanding apps, and it doesn't deliver the kind of leap forward you expect in a yearly refresh, but it is a stable chipset. Storage wise, you get a couple of options. There's a 6 gig plus 128 gig storage version, which is what I have here, and an 8 gig RAM plus 256 gig option if you want a bit more multitasking headroom. Both support expandable storage up to 2 terabytes. Cameras are another area where the Redmi 15 feels like a downgrade. The Redmi 13 gave us a 108 megapixel main camera and a 13 megapixel selfie cam, which while not perfect produced solid detail. The Redmi 15, on the other hand, drops to a 50 megapixel sensor and a supporting auxiliary lens. Like all budget devices, photo quality is fine. Colors look a bit more natural, but in low light, you immediately notice the lack of detail. And for selfies, the Redmi 15 has a downgraded 8 megapixel cam. As for selfies, they are okay for casual use, but I found them a bit on the soft side, with the colors sometimes looking a little washed out. It's nothing major, and for a phone in this budget category, it's kind of what you expect. Now, let's talk about one area where the Redmi 15 absolutely dominates: battery life. The 7000 milliamp battery on this device is no joke. It is easily a 2-day phone for moderate users. Even with heavy use, social media, videos, camera testing, I still ended the day with around half the battery life left. Charging is still at 33 watts, which is fine, but because this has a bigger battery, going from 0 to 100% takes you about 2 hours. But considering how long it should last, you won't need to charge it always. So yeah, if you want a phone that just keeps going and going in terms of the battery life, this is where the Redmi 15 shines. And then some of the decisions here just don't make sense. We still have a side mounted fingerprint scanner. There is no 3.5mm headphone jack this year, which is surprising on the Redmi series. And on top of that, it uses a hybrid SIM slot. So you have to pick between a second SIM or expandable storage. These kind of omissions usually make sense on premium devices, or in Xiaomi's case, the Note series. But on a budget device like the Redmi 15, it just feels like Xiaomi is taking away features instead of giving us more. You get IP64 rating, which is a step up from the IP53 on the Redmi 13. So it handles dust and splashes better. And yes, the classic IR blaster is still here, so you can use it as a remote. Software wise, it is running HyperOS 2 on top of Android 15. Smooth enough, but like every other Xiaomi phones, you'll see some bloatwares and the occasional ads. In terms of AI, there's really not much happening here. You get Google Gemini and Circle to search, but that's about it. Nothing Redmi specific that pushes the experience forward. As for updates, I expect around 2 years of major OS updates and security patches on top, which is decent for a budget smartphone, but definitely not on par with what competitors like Samsung are promising, even in the entry level segment. So after all this, how do I feel about the Redmi 15? Honestly, initially I didn't like it because it is bulky, and if you know me, I don't like super big phones. The plastic build on the back makes it kind of worse, and the screen is just too wide to be comfortable. And the fact that Redmi went with an older processor, the downgraded cameras, is also something I don't understand. Also, the use of an LCD for a device which should cost over 200,000 is a big no. I just can't get behind that. The only real win here is the massive 7000 milliamp battery. If that's all you care about, endurance and battery life above everything else, then sure, the Redmi 15 makes sense. But if you want a smartphone that feels more modern, not so bulky, and also with a better display, there are better options out there around this price point. For me personally, the Redmi 15 wouldn't be my first choice. But like I said earlier, if you're someone who prioritizes battery life above everything else, this could be a solid option worth looking at. Now, as at the time I shot this video, Xiaomi hasn't officially announced the price for the Redmi 15, but my guess is it should land somewhere in the same price range as the Tecno Spark 40 Pro, Infinix Hot 60 Pro, and the Samsung Galaxy A16 4G. I'll make sure to update the description or pin a comment with the price once it goes live, so make sure to check back for that. Anyway, this is my honest take on the Redmi 15. What do you guys think? Would you trade better cameras or display for a 7000 milliamp battery? Or do you agree with me that this feels like a step backward? Drop those thoughts in the comment section. And of course, if you enjoyed this review, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.